Welcome back. Today I've got a different type of video for you. Today I wanted to bring up the topic of going to music school. So let's dive in. I see lots of people online debating whether going to music school is still worth it these days. And I wanted to address this because in most cases, it's just a case of people that did go to music school, defending why they did it, and people who didn't, arguing why they didn't. First off, what I'm about to say should only be seen in a context that sees music school as a tool or a means to help develop a music career. That's what people usually mean when they ask if it's worth it. So I'm not talking here about people that might go for any other reasons like personal fulfillment or the experience itself. Going to music school can have all sorts of random life-changing benefits, like meeting a best friend or your spouse or settling in a specific part of the world. But I'm not talking about any of that in this video. I'm strictly referring to the professional angle. For some context, and so you know where I'm coming from, I spent 18 years of my life in academia, whether you call it music school or conservatory or whatever you like, studying various things, including 2 bachelors, one in composition and another one in conducting. I've been through the system for a while, so take this as you may. Now, every situation is different, but for me, there are certain cases in which going to music school would be a straight no regardless of any other factors. The big one is if, in order to pay for it, you have to go into debt in any capacity or deplete your savings, because it can literally ruin your life, period. You see, living off music is really hard, but not in the same way as, say, learning a skill, where, yes, it can be very difficult, but if you put in the time and the effort, anyone can do it, independently from how many people are doing it or trying to do it. This is different. It's hard because the market simply can't absorb that many people. In fact, it can't absorb most people. There's simply not that much demand for what we do. Here's an anecdote to illustrate this. I had a teacher who went to USC to study film scoring in the early 2000s. And they told us in class once that after 13, 14, maybe 15 years post-graduation, there were only 3 people that were working as professional film composers. And all of them went to what many consider the best university in the world for film scoring. And back then, competition was way less intense. Now, it is much tougher. With that level of uncertainty on top of $100,000 in debt in many cases, it's just a huge gamble and I'd never recommend it. Now, universities can be useful in 2 key ways. First, they can give you practical knowledge and skills that you need in order to work in that industry. And second, they can connect you with that industry, whether that is through internships, through the people you meet, or by being close to a hub. When it comes to practical knowledge and skills, in my experience, music school is pretty poor. And from what I've seen, that's true in most universities. The ratio of useful courses, by which I mean courses that teach you something useful, practical, that makes you more employable or highly regarded in the industry, was probably 25%. That means that about 75% of all courses were either filler or courses that, while they might offer some sort of tangential knowledge or general knowledge, they didn't directly make you a better asset in the industry. I'm talking about history, philosophy, and any other humanities-based courses. Even subjects like acoustics or music analysis that might seem useful at first were covered in such shallow, broad, and academic terms that they didn't really translate to anything practical in your daily professional life. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against general knowledge or these subjects in particular. In fact, I very much believe that tangential knowledge can go a long way in some cases and can set you apart from the competition. But when major areas of the trade, things that actually matter in your work, are completely ignored, that's a problem. Let me give you some examples from my own experience. I majored in composition and I didn't have any courses that covered things like copyright law, the different types of music rights there are, what music licenses are, how to use a score editor, how to copy and engrave music, how to use a DAW, how to mix, master, how to restore audio and manipulate it, synthesis, or how to handle your freelance career legally, how to do your taxes, for instance. But I had 6 courses on history and philosophy. There's got to be a better way to prioritize. At least that's been my experience. Now, when it comes to the second part of the equation, which is how universities connect you to the real world, the professional world, it doesn't get much better. In my experience, universities are somewhat like flawed versions of Dragon Ball Z's hyperbolic time chamber, in that you spend some years there, you gain some skills, but in terms of advancing your career, you come out in the exact same spot. You haven't made any professional connections, and if you have, it's not been thanks to the university. They don't connect you with professionals or job opportunities, nor do they teach you how to do it yourself either, how to network, where and how to look for job opportunities, how to build a personal brand, or how to use social media. It's as if they are disconnected from the real world. There's an article from 2017 called "The Orchestral Dream is Dead" by Matt Waters that touches upon this. The article is no longer available, but there is a podcast where the host reads through it, so I'll leave a link to it in the description. In the article, Waters explains how conservatories train their students to become soloists or orchestra performers, where in reality only a tiny fraction of them will ever land such positions. Most will have to hustle, teaching, arranging, producing sheet music, recording, improvising, handling legal paperwork, hiring musicians, etc. And none of that is being taught at universities. Again, that's been my experience, but I've also seen it in many others, in most actually. So where am I going with this? Well, efficiency, or rather lack of it. Let me share with you another anecdote. When I was small, I was a bit of an academic snob, in that I used to think, wrongly of course, that people that hadn't gone to the academy weren't real musicians. But when I was 18, I saw something truly unbelievable during the admission exams for the conservatory superior, which translates to higher conservatory, which is the institution where you go to do your bachelor's and beyond. In my country, the conservatory system is made up of 14 academic years. The first 10 are at the Conservatorio Profesional or Professional Conservatory, while the last 4 are at the Conservatorio Superior or Higher Conservatory. This means that by the time students apply to these higher conservatories, they have been studying music for a decade, and during these exams, they test you on everything you should have learned over that period, over those 10 years. But when I applied, there was an applicant that had only been studying music for 2 years. And I thought, well, there's no way this person is going to pass. I mean, how could you learn in 2 years what most people have learned over a decade? Well, guess what? Not only did they pass, but they got the second highest score. And I couldn't believe it at first, but then it made perfect sense. If I had to teach myself everything I had learned over those first 10 years, 2 years would have been enough. This really drove home for me how inefficient academia is for training people. Again, this is not to say that academic training or formal training has no value, far from it, but there are better ways or more efficient ways. Private lessons, online courses, self-teaching, YouTube videos, or maybe a combination of all these options might be a better route. I don't recommend going fully self-taught either. In the arts, feedback from someone more knowledgeable is essential for improvement. And if you're not in academia, you also have to be incredibly disciplined and conscientious, which might not work for everyone, but it's definitely worked for a lot of people. To wrap things up, this video isn't trying to discourage anyone from going to music school. Academia has got lots of pros, and we all know about that. But that's not the point of this video. There are many reasons why someone might choose to go to music school, and honestly, I'm one of them myself. I'd do it all over again if I could go back in time. But the thing is that I wouldn't do it for the practical skills, the efficiency of learning, or the career advancement. That is the key. So what do you think about all this? Did you go to music school? Do you think that taking a different path would have changed anything in your career? Let me know in the comments and let's chat about it.